All right, Colts Nation, we are back again. Happy Monday to you. I feel like I have a super interesting guest with me here today. You know, one of the things when I started this show that I didn't realize was the fact that I would identify, or people would identify with me about the fact that I'm a Colts fan that isn't from Indianapolis. And I thought I was doing something special just by being in New York and being a Colts fan. But it turns out, as I've learned since I started here, there are Colts fans literally all over the world. I mean, we've gotten comments from people in Germany, the UK, Africa. Very, very humbling stuff for me to see, but it does lead me to think, I mean, how the heck does that happen? So across from me is George Eghator. Was that correct?
Yeah, you got it, bro.
Okay, cool. George on Sports. My man's is a Colts fan all the way out in the UK, but not just a Colts fan, really a diehard football fan. So I kind of want to ask him a bit about that, just because I find that to be so interesting, how even though the fact that American football may not be the most popular sport in the UK, not only do people like it, but people are super, super passionate about it. So let's get right into it. But before I do, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Justin. This is the Ride the Bench Colts cast. It says it up on the top of the screen too. I do this every show. If you're enjoying it at any point, go ahead, shoot it a like, subscribe if you feel so fit. But most importantly, just enjoy the show. The housekeeping is over. So now, George, we're going to start by talking about you. I know people are going to want to hear about the Colts too. I promise, guys, we're going to get into it, but I think you're going to find George super interesting. So tell me, to my knowledge, as an American, so take this as you may, the most popular sports in the UK are what, like soccer, tennis, is rugby? Am I making that up?
Cricket too, yep.
Cricket as well. So tell me, how do you get so deeply into football? Because you're not just a fan. You used to play running back. You're in the media. You're talking to players. See you asking questions to Aaron Rodgers. No big deal. Brush that off right there, right? I mean, how do you end up just taking this path? Like, how did you fall in love with football? How were you introduced?
All right. So basically, I used to play football, soccer to you guys. That was my first kind of sport.
Okay.
And then I went on to rugby. Not naturally, because I'm more of like the physical contact kind of guy.
Sure.
In terms of my sport. And when I went over to uni, I basically wanted to continue playing rugby, but I couldn't join the team because for whatever reason they lived and trained a lot further than where I lived at the minute. So the next best thing that I saw was there was a freshers fair basically, and there was this American football stand, and they had like cheerleaders and they had like highlight players, and I was like, what is this? First time I'd kind of seen it, and it looked quite similar to rugby in terms of the contact. So I was like, you know what, I'll take this up. So I I basically started playing in 2018. No, sorry, 2010.
Okay.
2010. I played for 11 years. I stopped playing a couple of years ago. But honestly, I wish I knew about the sport from a younger age because, like, obviously you say about American football being an American sport, but it's a big thing over here. And it just keeps getting bigger every year. So I found myself joining the team. I played for 11 years. I played running back for 11 years. Played wide receiver, tight end, a couple of other positions too. But traditionally, I played running back. And man, once you meet people over here in the UK who are part of the game, who either played the game, cover the game in terms of media or journalism, or content creators, anyone in that kind of space, it's a real niche community over here. Kind of like everyone knows everyone, and there's a big buzz around the sport. I mean, we have our own domestic league, and that's the league that I played in for 11 years, and it's been running for quite a while now. There's a rich history in the UK of American football. And obviously, you can see the link now with things like the International Player Pathway Program, where guys from all around the world you basically get a shot at going to the NFL. And there's guys like Efe Abada, who plays for the Commanders now. He's a product of the UK. And the sport it's growing, man. I don't know if a lot of people know that over there, though. A different part. I mean, like, it didn't sound like you knew too much about how there's quite a presence over here for the sport.
Yeah, no, we're completely unaware of it. We're in a bubble over here. You know how that, you know how that works. So something interesting that you said, because one thing I noticed is that there is some players in the NFL do come from rugby. You had mentioned, okay, this looks similar enough. When you were making that transition from rugby to playing running back, what were some of the primary differences between because I don't watch rugby like that, but I do know you
Yeah,
have the ball, you're going to run someone over, you toss it over to I'm probably explaining the rules like shit. But
no, no.
point being is that it kind of looks like just like a bunch of running backs out there to some degree. They're big guys. What would you say was the primary difference in that transition?
Um, well, firstly, the thing that was kind of the same was a contact
Sure.
to a degree. So I was like, I'm looking for that. I got it there. But the difference is, I say one of the biggest things is kind of like the brotherhood, I'd call it. So the rugby has its own kind of social circle, if you like. But I find with American football, the culture is just different. The brotherhood is different. There's something about obviously like you get together with the guys and you're watching NFL Sundays, or even better if you play the sport like I've done for so long. You build these kind of special bonds with guys as well.
Mm.
And it's just, I mean, you go out and you watch ball. There's something about it, it just gives you a kind of vibe. So you pair that with playing the sport for so long, covering the sport both here in the UK and obviously covering the NFL too. Yeah, man, it's almost like it's in my veins. But in terms of the switch from rugby to American football, definitely the brotherhood. That's one of the biggest things. But I think it's just more of an exciting sport, to be honest with you.
Hell yeah. Love to hear that. How does it become Indianapolis Colts though? Because football is one thing. How do you end up going to Indianapolis for these Colts?
Yeah, it's strange because you don't really meet Colts fans here in the UK.
Oh, I'd imagine.
They're either a Green Bay fan, 49er fan, Ravens fan, Bills fan, Patriots fan. You never come across Colts fans. And
No.
basically, my story is just 100% random. So I did no prior research. I did no looking up to see who was great at the time. It's the first time that I started to play Madden, the video game.
Hell yeah.
First time I put the game in, I was like, all right, cool. Whichever team comes up on the loading screen in terms of like pick your team, that's going to be my team. And I literally just went with that. And at the time, it was obviously Peyton Manning and the Colts, and they were, doing the business every single Sunday in the NFL. Obviously, winning the title before he went over to the Broncos. But the Colts came up, and I was like, all right, cool. No prior knowledge, no idea who's who, and that's going to be my team. Because people ask me that same question. They go, why are you a Colts fan? How did you become a Colts fan? Expecting me to be one of the other teams, but I went pure random choice, bro. I didn't want to dive too much into prior history. I thought let's just take a shot and go from there. So here we are, man.
For sure. And then obviously things you're talking about, Peyton Manning and things like that. I mean, it's obviously changed over here for us Colts fans. So what was it that kept you with the Colts? Because for me personally, being from New York, when Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, a lot of my friends, because obviously like anyone who learned about the Colts in the 2000s, Peyton Manning is pretty much the reason why you're a fan. So everyone thought I was going to switch to the Broncos, but I don't know what it was. I was like, I have to stay. Like I'm stuck. Is that kind of how you felt? Like what kept you on the Colts?
To be honest, it's more of like a loyalty to your team kind of thing.
Sure.
It's the same way we do soccer. Like, I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm from the area, so I was born. And regardless of what happens, whether you're trash, whether you don't win a game, whether your defense stinks or you can't throw the ball, you can't run the rock, you still stick with the team, right? So for me, it was a case of I'm not about to change teams at any point, given what we've been through, and I'm sure we're going to talk on that. But that was it. I was never going to change alliances, and I'll be a Colts fan and moving forward, man.
Sounds good to me. Love that. I'm stuck with them for life, for better or for worse. Right
Me.
now, it feels like maybe for worse, but things are on the up and
Yeah.
up. But before we talk about some of the positive stuff, I have to start with some of the negative stuff because the negative stuff is around running backs. You played running back. And I'm curious, as we get into this Tuesday, the roster cuts, that's the deadline for that Jonathan Taylor trade. What are your predictions for how this thing plays out? I mean, the information is going to be moving so quick, so I'm hoping that by the time I get out this episode, this question doesn't become like irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? But how do you predict this thing plays out?
Man, well, again, you would have seen the latest news about Josh Jacobs. Obviously, he's taking a 1-year deal. Saquon Barkley did it before him. I think the day after they had the running backs Zoom meeting, and Saquon Barkley agrees I think it's $11 million deal. Josh Jacobs has now done it. So, I mean, if you look at the wider scope, it almost looks like, the first ladder's fallen. Saquon's agreed. The second ladder's fallen. Josh Jacobs has agreed. Is Jonathan Taylor going to be that third? Is he going to be the guy to accept a 1-year deal? I still think that's the way it's going to go, personally. I know the relationship is soured, man, and I hate to see it. But there's so much detail to it. Again, you mentioned the fact that I played running back, and I did. Yes, it's not the NFL. It's not, you don't hit as hard, but you still understand what Jonathan Taylor's going through, simply because as a running back, of course, you get wear and tear. It's part of the position, right? if you happen to be a Josh Jacobs, a Saquon Barkley, or Jonathan Taylor, you're going to end up putting a team on your back at some point during the season, if not multiple times during the season. That naturally leads to wear and tear, right? You don't have a great O-line. That's going to naturally lead to wear and tear. You don't have a QB who can actually be mobile enough to throw the ball, escape the pocket. I'm referring to Matt Ryan and some of the other guys here. Your running back's going to take. This is what happens, right? So it's catch-22 because come the end of the season, yes, he's been injured, he's been banged up as a result of how poor we were. So now it's a case of, right, I need to renegotiate my deal. I'm about to, I've been hurt. My ankle might not be 100%. I need paying now. And if you're the Colts, you're thinking, well, look at the running back market. And I don't agree with it, by the way. I think running backs are being mistreated 100%.
Sure.
They always talk about the Super Bowl winning teams haven't had, first round draft pick running backs. Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th round pick, and he's playing well for the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you remove Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs from their starting, remove these guys from their teams, and we'll see if this, if these teams have the same production. They're not going to. It's a matter of fact. So I don't know, with Jonathan Taylor, for the sake of having a guy like Anthony Richardson who would benefit so much with Jonathan Taylor in that backfield. I mean, that is a pick your poison. You're either going to get burnt with Jonathan Taylor or you're going to get run over by Anthony Richardson. The wide receivers are now all of a sudden finding space down the field. Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, they're able to create separation now because there's danger up front. We don't really kind of have that same level of danger if JT doesn't play. Don't get me wrong. Evan Hull looks good, right? He's a rookie. He looks quite good.
He's not JT.
Deion Jackson. He's not JT, exactly. You got Deion Jackson and you got Zach Moss, who's obviously got the broken arm.
Sure.
So we're in a bit of a sticky situation, clearly. I do think it's going to go the way of he ends up signing a 1-year deal. And if he's not hurt, then he comes out and hopefully he plays well and he can prove it. And then we can talk about the money. But for the sake of the team and Anthony Richardson, I really hope he comes back. And I think that's the way it's going to end up.
So if you were Jonathan Taylor, that's your prediction. But is that what would you do? Like, how would you be handling it? Because he kind of seems like he really seems like he wants to take a stand. I think he's going to push this thing out. I think he actually ends up on the physically unable to perform list to start the season. So I think no trade gets done. And I think no deal gets done. I think he's going to be the stubborn one. I think we're going to be missing him for the first month. If you're Jonathan Taylor, how would you be approaching this? Would you be doing it the way he's been doing it? Or what would you do? Because it's complicated.
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten so ugly so quick in a matter of days. It's just literally taking a dive. But if I was JT, I agree. Don't get me wrong. I agree what he's doing. I agree he wants his money, but I don't think I'd do it in the same manner. It just seems really. It comes across like negative energy on the team. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve his money, by the way. He deserves his money.
I get you.
I just feel like his presence could be it's just very strange. You know what I mean?
There's a way to be diplomatic about it, right?
Yeah, there is. And I understand we got an owner in Jim Irsay who can, fire off tweets and people are thinking, oh my God, someone like stop the guy from talking. Like just stop. He's just making it worse. And so naturally, if you're Jonathan Taylor, you're probably taking offense to that. So it's beginning to get a bit personal. It looks ugly just to see it, man. It don't look nice. It doesn't look nice at all, does it? So if I was JT, I get it. I agree, but I would handle it in a different manner, I think, personally, just so we don't, cast too much of a shadow on the development and the process of Anthony Richardson. But
so you'd be taking that 1-year deal? You would just be going.
I would take the 1-year deal because I would trust. I'm saying, give me the 1-year deal. I'll go out there and perform. Then we can talk about the money. I mean, it's very different for Jonathan Taylor, who can come in and now play with Anthony Richardson as opposed to Matt Ryan. There's a big difference there, and it creates a whole new level of issues for the defense. So, I mean, that's what I hope happens anyway.
For sure. Now, what do you feel like? I'm giving you the opportunity to be the advocate for running back pay right now. What do you feel like is something that running backs bring to the table in the NFL now? Because everyone talks about it's a passing league and that to some degree devalues the position. I guess. What do you think is something that running backs are bringing to the table that goes relatively unnoticed by most people or underappreciated?
That whole phrase of it's a passing league. It honestly, it bothers me so much. Don't get me wrong, quarterbacks, that's what they're paid to do, and they're slinging it left, right, and center. But the whole dismissal of the whole running back position is just a joke. Honestly, the most basic example, like I said earlier, if you just take out these stars from these teams, you don't just have another Nick Chubb. You don't just have another Jonathan Taylor. You don't. They're kind of like roughs in the dirt, and when you find them, you wanna kind of keep them happy, keep them sweet, keep them producing. It's tough. I mean, if you just look at the kind of contracts that some of these guys are on, right, and you compare them to, I guess, quarterback contracts, wide receiver contracts, it's like why would you want to come up and play? You know, it's just so very dismissive. And as a running back myself, knowing what you kind of have to put yourself through, the injuries,
Right.
putting a team on your back, and expecting to go out there and perform every single week, and then your team kind of turn around and says, "Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I'm not going to give
Yeah.
you what you want."
Yeah, for sure. And I do think there is a level. I can't completely dismiss the statement because it is a passing league on many levels. You look at all the best teams in the league, they have the great
Hmm.
quarterbacks. But I do feel it gets a little bit convenient in that conversation because then all of a sudden you look at the team like the Buffalo Bills, let's say, right?
Hmm.
And they have the quarterback, they have Stephon Diggs, they have all of it. And all of a sudden they go into the playoffs and now they're not getting over the hump. And what do people point to? They point to the fact that they don't have a consistent running game and a great running back,
Exactly.
right? So it
Exactly.
becomes very convenient. You kind of pick and choose your spots. Particularly now, running backs seem very willing to become great pass catchers as well. All over the league, that's become the standard. I would probably credit, I don't know, maybe Le'Veon Bell for
Yeah.
that. But just really, it's the standard where you have to contribute on both sides. But I mean, I would agree with you that something has to be done. Now, there's two ways to look at it.
Mm,
There's like the realistic solution and maybe just like the pie in the sky type of in a perfect world, this is how it would be done. I
yeah.
want your pie in the sky solution. If you were the GM of an NFL team and you just had the power to maybe break the market or try to fix this situation, how would you, and this is not an easy answer, so if you don't
Mm.
have anything, because I didn't prepare you for this ahead of time, so I
No, it's all good.
apologize.
It's all good.
Um, what would your solution be for running back pay? Because in my opinion, something has to be figured out for them that
Hmm.
is different than every other position because they're the
Yeah.
only ones, most positions you get better at by playing the position. Running back is a rare circumstance where you actually get worse, technically,
Hmm.
in theory, the more you play because of the wear and
Yeah.
tear that you mentioned. So what do you feel like would be a potential solution to where maybe the ownership doesn't feel like they're getting gypped, but the running back also doesn't feel like they're getting screwed over in all of this?
I mean, one thing you could say is you could look at bigger incentives
Mm.
in the sense that the team don't feel like they're just giving you the money,
Hmm.
but you as a player, if you're someone who believes in your ability and you're doing it every single year, week in, week out, then you can hit X incentives. So possibly that could be, and these could obviously be in terms of the bigger money that they're looking for. If they hit this number of yards of receiving, if they score this many touchdowns, if they do X, Y, and Z, they'll get that big money incentive. I'm just thinking of a way in which it doesn't harm either side too much, because technically for the team, again, the problem right now is they don't want to dish out this money and the running
Yeah.
back gets injured and then they're kind of stuck thinking this is why we never wanted to give you the money. So incentives covers both the team and the player. You got the player thinking, I can hit that, so I'm going to get that money, and you got the team thinking, well, if he doesn't hit it, we don't lose out. The other thing you can do is just give them the big contract.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Just give some of the players what they're asking for, so long as it's not sky high ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about all pro running backs who do it all. You run the ball, you pass the ball, you catch the ball, you block. You've got big responsibilities just as much as the wide receiver does. So the whole, it's the prime example. Like, let's talk about someone who's decent at blocking and someone who isn't. Right,
Right.
that could be the difference between a Josh Allen, tearing his ACL in poor pass protection from a running back who isn't of the same caliber. You're basically, it's almost like saying, okay, if Josh Jacobs hadn't assigned, or if whichever running back hadn't assigned, the team are trusting next man up, second string, third string, to be able to do that job. You know that running back can't do that job as well as Nick Chubb, can't do the job as well as Jonathan Taylor, can't stiff arm like Derrick Henry. So on one side, you're thinking, okay, I'm protecting the team in terms of not giving out contracts and paying out money when the player's going to get injured. But on the other side, you're potentially, I don't want to say harming your team, but you're kind of harming your team. In our case, anyway, with JT and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's most aggravating about the situation is that it seems clear based off of the way the contracts are structured and the position that the Colts are in, not just in terms of having a rookie quarterback, but I mean, how many years in a row can you just be just all negative headlines? You feel like it's in the best interest of both parties to get the deal done, with each other, which is what makes me so angry. As far as the incentives go, my one worry with that is that you have someone like making a call down to the sideline and it's like, okay, he needs 1,000 yards to get his deal. He's at 990, and we have another 2 quarters of football to play. What are we doing here? And it kind of still keeps it out of the running back's hand. And that may sound like conspiracy type talk, but I mean, Shannon Sharp has an awesome story about how he needed like X amount of yards in a game. And he literally had like 3 receptions for 116 yards in the first half. And he was like 10, 15 yards away. I'm just throwing out numbers. He didn't get another target the entire second half of that game. And then next week they're in the playoffs and he goes off for $150 and 2 touchdowns, and he doesn't get his money on that. So for me, the incentives make sense, but I mean, I'm trying to think of a solution that works
risky.
Is risky. And for me, even though the people, and I've said this opinion on my show before, people call me a child for it. I think personally, when running backs are in their prime, even if it's just a 2 or 3 year stretch, when that is the case, they are amongst the best football players on your team and the most impactful. 100%. I would be giving them exorbitant amounts of money, fully guaranteed, just in a short span. So this way you don't risk paying them past their prime and they don't feel getting gypped. And this sounds absurd to people. I would be giving them like 20, 25 mil, whatever it is. However important I feel they are in that 2-year span, I'd be paying them as much as just me. I think that's good faith. I also think that looks good to put people, potential free agents that want to come to your team, knowing that you take care of the players a little bit. That's how I look at it, and I'm glad that you approve of this because I've gotten beat up for this take before.
The other thing that I like about that is that shows confidence in your running back, right? That's showing you that I value what you do. And in return, the running back's going to go out and perform. He's going to go and put everything on the line because, all right, they've given me the money. That's what I wanted. I'm about to go out and ball now. So I like that idea personally. I think it's all right.
Yeah, I don't think the owners would like it too much, but you got to do something for these guys. I mean, you got quarterbacks signing $400 million contract, 200, whatever the heck they're signing for. I mean, that you stop counting at some point. It's so much damn money. You know what I'm saying? And you have a guy like Devontae Parker, let's say, who I don't think's a bad receiver, but he's not a top flight receiver in the NFL landscape. And I mean, he's getting paid more than JT. He's getting paid $8-9 million. I don't care if it's passing league or not. You think Devontae Parker is anywhere near as good of a wide receiver as JT is a running back? So for me, I mean, people could talk about the reality of it all they want, like, oh, the contracts work this way, the money works this way. I don't give a shit. At some point, I think it comes down to ethics just a little bit. And I think the right thing to do is to try to figure something out. I don't know when the CBA has to come back and renegotiate this, but I think this is going to be the issue that's at the forefront because I think something needs to be changed bad because these guys are very talented. So with that, I'm going to go off of JT a little bit now, but stay on the Colts. Right now, the preseason's over. We've seen it. Roster cuts not quite here yet, but we know basically the main guys. We know the infrastructure. We know our best players, and we know a lot of the starters, maybe the secondary, not as much. We'll figure it out. How are you feeling right now, just gut, about the season coming up? Where are you at with the roster we have in place?
I'm excited purely, and I don't think it'd be possible for a Colts fan to not be excited. I know there's some really negative Colts fans out there who
always can't help these people.
I mean that's what is what it is. But I'm sorry, we've got a guy in the building who can do it all. He can run the ball, he can pass the ball. He's super talented. We haven't had anyone like this since Andrew Luck. It's as simple as that. We've been on a QB carousel for years, suffering for years, right? Bringing in one year guys, 1 year quarterbacks. You had guys like. Who's the running back that we traded away who said, it was difficult playing with different quarterbacks every single season?
Naheem Hines.
Hines, sorry.
Yeah.
That's not how a team is supposed to run. There's no chemistry, there's no connection, there's no history. So the fact that we have a guy who is very talented, you can see he's a great guy, by the way, just as his personality and his character.
A1.
Top tier guy who wants to give everything to the Colts organization. We've been waiting for years for this. We've been waiting for years. So you can't help but be excited. That's only natural. Yes, the secondary, looks a little bit shaky. Having Kenny Moore as the most experienced guy in that room, he was very disgruntled last season, but he's had the conversation with the coach. He's opened it up, and they've had that one-to-one, and it seems like he's been balling. Like he's in a much better place. But obviously, we've got quite a few rookies. We've got Rush. So I'm Juju Brent, who was injured for a lot of the season. I think he had a wrist injury.
Yeah, slow start for him too in training camp. He's looking like he's just a step behind right now.
Yeah, obviously you still got guys like Kenny. Obviously you got Blackman too. But I feel like if we were to have like a Gilmore, who's obviously not here anymore, in that room too, I'd feel a lot better about that secondary. But right now it's a little bit shaky. The O-line is looking a little bit scary.
You're
Pinter.
not feeling good about it.
Uh, I think we're better. I loved what I saw in preseason. By the way, there was a lot of protection, a lot of time for AR and the other guys to get their work done. So I'm more positive about the O line than last season because we weren't great, but we're dropping like flies, man. By the time people watch this, Pinters is now out, so it looks like we're going to have to go and get someone to help us on the O line. But it's a position that we've needed, obviously, an upgrade on in however many years. Obviously, you've got the likes of Nelson and Kelly who reassure others along the line, but I just feel like we're a little bit weak in that sense on the O-line. We're obviously going to go out and bring someone in now that Pinter's out as well. The wide receiver room is interesting. I don't know if I should say this or not.
Do it.
So I love Michael Pittman. I think he's a baller.
Yeah.
I think that he may struggle to be the one that we need him to be. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Don't get me wrong. He's a dog. He's a baller. We've seen what he's done and what he's gonna be able to do now with Anthony Richardson. And I mentioned earlier, it should be easier for the likes of Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce, guys like Josh Downs. By the way, Josh Downs, I'm a huge Josh Downs fan.
Same. I love Josh Downs.
Is an absolute steal. He's someone who I describe who plays bigger than his size.
Yeah.
Josh Downs is an absolute baller. Like I kind of look at him like a T.Y. Hilton 2.0. So I'm really excited for the whole, the pass game of Anthony Richardson and these guys. But having Anthony Richardson there allows guys like Pierce, MPJ, and Downs to hopefully create more space. But I just feel like we needed, and I've always wanted to just have like a senior wide receiver head in the room. Not necessarily T.Y. because, he was more of like a kind of slot guy, but just a big body. You know what? Mike Strawn.
Yeah, I kind of like what he brings to the table.
I like what he brings. That's the kind of frame, build, size that I'm talking about. He doesn't get much game time. I mean, I don't know what it is. I've seen some good clips of him in the preseason. I'm a big fan of Mike, and I'd love to see him get time. I see he's listed second on the roster on the depth chart. I'm a big fan of his, but just a big-bodied wide receiver to like demand. I'm not saying Michael Pittman Jr. isn't that. He's clearly a baller, but just someone to provide that physical presence. And we don't have that kind of bully you wide receiver. But I mean, yeah, defensively, I'm happy that Shaq is back, man. I'm happy that
Yep.
Leonard is back.
Knock on wood. I don't want to get into.
I mean, I know he's. I don't know if he's out of concussion protocol just yet, but it's great to have him around because I think he brings a sense of confidence to the team with everything that he does. Forcing fumbles and breaking tackles and winning games for us. Essentially, I'd like to see a little more. I'd like to see a little bit more from Kwity Paye. I don't think he's really lived up to the hype, if you like, so far.
Yeah.
But of course, when you got guys like Buckner, you got Stewart, who I love, big growth. EJ Speed's another guy who's coming along really well.
I'm so excited about him.
Yeah, he's a baller. I mean, it's in the name, right?
Yeah.
We've also got Samso Ebukam, who we got from the 49ers. Another guy that I'm really a big fan of is Dayo Adengbo as well, who I think is going to have a big year this year.
He's my breakout guy for this year.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. So I'm not too across the front of the linebacker core. We got Zaire stepped up in a huge way. I think he led the league in tackles last season, or the Colts anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not too concerned. I just want to get more of a pass rush. We need to be getting to the quarterback. We've struggled to do it recently, but I'm not too upset about the strength there. The secondary, like we said, is a bit of a shaky one, just because I don't know how these rookies are going to fare against like AJ Brown and the likes of all these bigger, better receivers.
Well, I think we know. We just don't want to say it.
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, if some of these guys have been playing really well. There was a lot positive words about Dallas Flowers as well. He played really well, and had been playing really well. Obviously, Blackman has moved to the strong safety now. So I don't know. Generally, overall, I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling positive. It's a breath of fresh air. Put it that way. It's change, right?
It's definitely for us right now. It's a very fun time to be a Colts fan because there's just so much optimism. I mean, how often as a fan base can you go into a season and be like, even if we're not that good this year, like we're still kind of on the up and up. So that's pretty cool. I guess to give because I feel like I kind of like crapped on the secondary a little bit, to give them some props. One thing I really enjoyed from the secondary in the final preseason game, I know they were versing backups, but they made them look like backups, which I really appreciated. Right. Flowers was great in coverage, as was Darrell Baker Jr. Both of them made the backup receivers look like backup receivers. So they looked the part on that front for me.
Yeah.
Anytime Chris Ballard is asked about this secondary, Dallas Flowers is always the name that he
Yeah.
mentioned. So that is a Chris Ballard guy through and through. We're going to see how that goes. But with that, I mean, that's probably the entire episode. We're at about a half hour here. So I want to make sure not to take up too much of your time. I see it's a little late over there in the UK as opposed to where I'm at, brother. But I really appreciate you coming on, man. And I think that the people that I have that are from, different parts of the world are really going to find you interesting, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time, bro.
No, it's been great, man. It's been great. Like I say, you don't really find Colts fans. So when I find Colts fans, I gotta have a chat. I gotta have a conversation because you don't find us over here, man. Obviously, the Colts are going to Germany this year. It was either going to be London or Germany. It's not been confirmed as Germany. So I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be there 100%. I will be there. Like the last time the Colts came to the UK, we lost to the Jags. So that pains me. It's still there, man. We need to get that win. So I'll be following them in Germany, going to get that W against the Patriots, hopefully, and that's going to be a great
for
game.
Sure. So I want to give you the opportunity now to plug whatever it is that you want to plug. What are you up to? What do you want people looking at? I'll make sure to put everything in the description. But let's hear it from you.
Yeah, 100%. So you can follow me at George on Sports on pretty much every platform. So the way I kind of do things is, being an ex-player, I kind of approach my kind of media, if you like, from a player perspective, which means I can get kind of up close and personal to some of the people who come over, and that maybe in fan interviews, podcasts with guests. You mentioned, obviously, got to speak to Aaron Rodgers, and that was amazing. Had people like Dean Blandino on the show, Stacey Dales, Rachel Bonetta, JJ himself, Justin Jefferson.
Saw that. That was sick.
No, that's dope. Awesome. So I love the sport. I'm always going to love the sport. I played it for so long, and I basically cover all kind of media. You can have a look for my podcast on YouTube as well, George on Sports. Loads of different guests on there too. And obviously now we're heading into the London games, if you like, the international series. So there'll be a lot of content going out, and hopefully bigger and better things to come. So yeah, have a look, check it out. Let me know what you think.
Awesome, George. Thank you so much. So everyone, that is it right there. Until next time, my name is Justin. Across the screen is George Eghator, and this right here is the Riding the Bench Colts cast. Go Colts.